Hey bookworms, welcome in. Today we're going to be talking about books that you can finish in one sitting if you're behind on your reading goal. Obviously, all these are going to be like shorter books, books that you can get through one or two a day. They're all different genres. There's a little something for everybody. So let's dive right in. And also, you might be noticing I'm talking with a microphone today. I bought this for a very cheap price on Amazon. And it's the summertime here in Missouri. Everyone's mowing all the time, and I've got a wind chime outside, and just it can get very noisy out there. So I'm trying it out. We'll see. So I kind of look like a dork, but that's okay. So the first books we're going to be talking about is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. This is a graphic novel. There's 5 of them, and I think the 6th one and final one comes out this year. I've already got it pre-ordered. So this is a graphic novel. It's mostly in pictures with a little bit of writing. It's a very cute story about 2 boys who are in the UK. They're in school, and one of them is openly gay. Someone outed him, and he's dealt with a lot of bullying and things like that. And the other one is like this rugby player. He's a jock, a really popular kid, and he gets sat with him in this form class. I think that's like homeroom for us Americans, but they start to develop a friendship, and then they start to get little crushes on each other, and it's very cute. The TV show is amazing. You can probably get through all of these in a day if you wanted to. They're so cute. A little spin-off of that is the Nick and Charlie book and This Winter. These are little chapter books by Alice Oseman. Nick and Charlie goes over, it kind of takes place after all of the graphic novels, like their senior year, whenever they're looking at colleges and things, and they're kind of like freaking out about how are we going to make this relationship work, but it's very cute and short. And then This Winter takes place during the novellas, and it just takes place over like a winter break. Trigger warning, Charlie Spring does have an eating disorder, and this does talk about that. The next book we'll go over is Stephen King, Rita Hayworth, and The Shawshank Redemption. This is also made into a movie. It's a great movie. I've seen bits and pieces of it, but never watched the whole thing all the way through, but I probably will, hopefully soon. So Stephen King usually writes like horror thrillers. This is not really any of that. You've probably heard of this. It's a classic, like a classic movie. Everybody's probably heard of this, but the summary says, a mesmerizing tale of resourcefulness and offbeat escape. Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption is one of Stephen King's most iconic stories. It helped make Castle Rock a place readers would return to over and over again. Suspenseful, mysterious, and heart-wrenching, this King tale, populated by a cast of unforgettable characters, is about a fiercely compelling convict named Andy Dufresne, who is seeking his ultimate revenge. Originally published in 1982 in a collection of different seasons, along with The Body, Apt Pupil, and The Breathing Method, it was made into a film, The Shawshank Redemption, in 1994, starring Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins. It's very quick. I read it in a day. It's a fun read. I also wanted to throw in a little Greek mythology book. This one is called Galatea, a short story by Madeline Miller. Madeline Miller also wrote A Song of Achilles and Circe. Her writing is so freaking beautiful. This little book is like 50 pages. Very easy to read. It's a very small book, like the size of my hand, so you can easily get through this in not very much time at all. The summary says, in ancient Greece, a skilled marble sculptor has been blessed by a goddess who has given his masterpiece, the most beautiful woman the town has ever seen, the gift of life. Now his wife, he expects Galatea to please him, to be obedient and humility personified, but she has desires of her own and yearns for independence. In a desperate bid by her obsessive husband to keep her under control, she's locked away under the constant supervision of doctors and nurses. But with a daughter to rescue, Galatea is determined to break free whatever the cost. This is just such a beautiful book, and again, Madeline Miller's writing is beautiful. Next up is The Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson is known for writing high fantasy. His novels are usually very lengthy, and there's a lot of world building with amazing characters, but this one is on the shorter side, and you can read it in a day. The back says, The Emperor's Soul came about after a trip I took to Taiwan, when my publisher there and my translator took me around the Palace Museum, where I was intrigued by the many red stamps on ancient pieces of art. My publisher explained those were the stamps of the scholars or monarchs who, upon seeing this great work of art, felt the need to stamp their name upon it. Having lived in Korea for several years, I was no stranger to the idea of personal stamps. However, I was struck by the terrible audacity of placing yours on a piece of art you didn't paint, as if to rewrite the story to insert yourself into the creative process. In The Emperor's Soul, a deal is offered to a woman with the magical talent to stamp objects and create forgeries of them. Can she use her magic to create a forgery of a person's soul instead? What follows is a tense game where she tries to do as asked under a tight deadline, all while knowing that if she finishes, she'll be executed for knowing too much. And then at the bottom it says, start here if you want a short story to try out first, or if you want more literary pieces with less focus on action by Brandon Sanderson. I read this and I found it very interesting, and like I said, it's quick. I read it in a day. Now, if you're into poetry, there's a book by Misha Collins, who is one of the main characters in Supernatural. He was on an episode of Charmed. He's just an amazing actor, and he does a lot for charities. And so he wrote this little poetry book. Here's his little picture on the back. Such a sweet man. It says, Misha Collins is best known for his 12-year portrayal as the Angel Castiel on television's Supernatural. He's the co-author of the best-selling Adventurous Eaters Club, and his poetry has been featured in literary journals. He's the creator of Gish, the 8-time Guinness World Record-breaking scavenger hunt that spans over 100 countries and gamifies charitable acts to generate social change. He's the founder and board president of Random Acts, a 100% volunteer-run charity that works to facilitate acts of kindness around the world. And then it says he has 2 kids and 2 apple trees. There's of course more, but there are some things he still can't tell you. But this is just a book of a bunch of poetry he's written. Very quick, easy read. It's just very interesting. I didn't even know he wrote poetry. I like this a lot. And then I have Orangutan Teeth and Somewhat Small by Trev Semensky. I actually found him on Instagram and TikTok, and his poetry is so freaking beautiful. And he does like little sketches in his books as well. He's just, something about his poetry is just beautiful. The way he performs it is really beautiful. Breaking news. We are coming to you live from a library near you where there has been a catastrophic event. What is this event, you might ask? My microphone died in the middle of my video. So I'm coming to you the next day with a lot less makeup on, looking like garbage, to talk to you about the rest of these books. So bear with me, please. Yeah, so these new mics are fantastic, but one of them died on me yesterday in the middle of my freaking video, and so it's all no audio. Here we go again. So when I left off, I was reading to you all a poem from Orangutan Teeth by Trev Semensky called Coffee Drip. I pour myself a cup of coffee and the pot always drips. I pour faster, I pour slower, higher, lower. It always drips. Standing the countertop, stinging my palm, and the coffee isn't even good. It's dark and it's hot, and I get precious little out of it, but I like the mug, and I buy a new one every week, and it's my new favorite thing. And I spill down the side of it, and it makes rings on the table, so I clean it up with the mail, because the mail is always boring, and it's always coming, and it's always nothing, so I throw it away. Into a trash can with coffee grounds and filters I don't remember buying. And I'm hungry, but I'm out of eggs, so I go to a diner, where they have special food, at a special price, for special people, and I get served by a lady who's nice to me, too close to me, 2 eggs for me, and I give her all my money, and she gives me all her coffee, and she never spills a drop. I just love his poetry. The next short book, if you like poetry, is Someone Somewhere Maybe by Sophie Diener. I found her on TikTok, and you have to go and find her and listen to her read her poetry. She is so amazing. She does a wonderful job writing it and reading it. It's just beautiful. Like, every single one is beautiful. One of my favorite ones is called Blue. I asked you if I were a color, what do you think I'd be? And you didn't even hesitate before you said green. Like the forest, like breathing, like being alive. And I said that you would be blue like the sky, sort of muted as the summer sun sets and the radio plays, blue like my favorite days. Then you said you loved me for the very first time, and I know you meant it, despite how down the line I sit on ugly linoleum floor and hear the hum of the fridge and the lock of the door, and my tears are hot as they roll down my cheeks, as they pool by my feet, as your car starts and you leave. You abandon a sweatshirt and give back the spare key, but you take the bands I showed you and the way I make my coffee. And I keep reading your favorite book, the one I swore I would not like, and when I finally close its cover, it's all filled with underlines. There are parts of you that fade in time, and parts of you that stay, and I'm not sure if you rubbed off on me, or just uncovered what had been hidden away. Regardless, I think you are so good. I know now that I was just not meant for you, and at the end of the day, I'm honored to walk away a little more blue. Okay, it's called Haunted House. Your house is yellow and mine is all white. I get off the bus, throw my backpack inside, and then get on my bike, cause I'll see you at 3, at the brick house where our 2 streets meet. And Jake says it's haunted, but I think he lied. Still, we won't risk it, we don't go inside. But we play in the backyard till we hear your dad's car. I'll see you tomorrow, good night. Then everything changes when we turn 16, and I trade my bike for your passenger seat, and I've never noticed, but your eyes are so green, and you seem kind of nervous when you bring up homecoming. So we fall in love, No one's surprised except for us. Then the summer after senior year, you help me pack my bags in the trunk. We figure after 13 years, 8 semesters apart isn't really that much. But we're in different time zones, and when I call you, your voice sounds rushed. The next time I see you, you don't look at me the same. When I fly back to college, there are so many pictures to put away. The last time I cry over you is 1 year later when I hear her name, but I get my degree and rent a house in the city, and everything turns out okay. Now I'm back in town to see my parents, and the brick house on their street has brand new windows, and the lights are on, and everything looks so clean. My mom says your name kind of softly that night at dinner when I asked who bought it, and I think maybe Jake was right when he told me that old house was haunted. Oh my god, I'm getting like choked up just reading it. Ugh. Her writing is so friggin' beautiful. Highly recommend this one. The next little short book you can get through in no time at all is a book called Johnny Cash Forever Words and Unknown Poems. It was edited and introduced by Paul Muldoon, foreword by John Carter Cash, and it's just like a collection of poetry, lyrics. It's got some of his own like handwriting in there. It's just kind of a hodgepodge of like a bunch of different stuff that Johnny Cash wrote, and they just put it into a book. So this is kind of neat if you're interested. I like Johnny Cash, so I thought it was fun. The next short little book I'm going to talk about is Lady Susan by Jane Austen. This one is obviously classic, and it's about Lady Susan Vernon, who basically is trying to get married to this man, but she's not going about it in like the most moral way, and she's also trying to get her daughter to marry this guy who she doesn't even like, and basically she's staying with this family, and she's writing letters to people, and the family's writing letters to the same people, and that's the point of view you get, is all the letters coming in. So like it feels like it's just a modern day like reality show where you're sitting down listening to these confessionals and they're all griping about each other, and you're just sitting here like, it feels like a lot of gossip, but it's like it's done in a very playful and fun way. I don't like reality shows, but I liked this a lot. It's just very fun, and I liked it. It was very quick, it was funny, and I just really enjoyed it. Another classic you can read and get through very quickly is Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. Obviously, a lot of people read this in high school, but then a few years after I finished college and everything, I wanted to like sit down and read it because I still had the book, and just to kind of see what I thought about it myself as an adult. And I got a play on Audible. It just followed through line by line with the book. It wasn't like a dramatized adaptation like they're doing nowadays with Audible. It wasn't like that, but it was just very lively, the guy that read it, and it was great. So I had a lot of fun with it, and it only took me a few hours to get through. The Outsiders you can get through very quickly. I read this in high school as well, and then reread it in my early adult years. A heroic story of friendship and belonging. Ponyboy can count on his brothers and on his friends, but not on much else besides trouble with his stock, a vicious gang of rich kids whose idea of a good time is beating up greasers like Ponyboy. At least he knows what to expect until the night someone takes things too far. This is also a movie. Loved the movie, loved the book. Highly recommend if you want something short and fun. The Giver. I read this when I was young, and then watched the movie years later, and then wanted to read the book again. The summary says, Jonah's world is perfect. Everything is under control. There's no war or fear or pain. There are no choices. Every person is assigned a role in the community. When Jonas turns 12, he is singled out to receive special training from the Giver. The Giver alone holds the memories of the true pain and pleasure of life. Now it's time for Jonas to receive the truth, and there's no turning back. This is just a really cool book, a little dystopian, and just very interesting to read. I really liked it. Then I have a few books by John Steinbeck, and these are considered classics as well. I'm sure a lot of us read of Mice and Men in high school. I know I did. And this is about George and Lenny, who are basically trying to get work. It's a very hard time economically. So they go to work on this farm for $50 a month, and their goal is to someday have their own land and their own place, just to be away from everyone else and do their own thing. And it doesn't quite work out that way. There's a movie. The movie makes me cry. The book makes me cry at the end every time. I just really love Lenny. So if you haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. And if you have read it in the past, I recommend a reread. It's short and it'll get you at the end. And then we have The Moon is Down by John Steinbeck. Occupied by enemy troops, a small, peaceable town comes face to face with evil imposed from the outside and betrayal born within the close-knit community. Originally published at the zenith of Nazi Germany's power, this masterful fable uncovers profound, often unsettling truths about war and about human nature. Steinbeck's self-described celebration of the durability of democracy had an extraordinary impact as Allied propaganda in Nazi-occupied Europe. Despite Axis efforts to suppress it, in fascist Italy, the mere possession of this book was punishable by death, The Moon is Down was secretly translated into French, Norwegian, Danish, Dutch, Swedish, German, Italian, and Russian. Hundreds of thousands of copies circulated throughout Europe, making it the most popular piece of propaganda under the occupation. It's about this little town occupied by enemy troops, and the townspeople still have to live there and work there and try not to get caught doing things that would be considered propaganda. And this book itself, when it was written, was propaganda. So it's just a very good book. And especially in today's political climate, I think it could be an interesting read if you're into that. So definitely recommend this one. And the third John Steinbeck book I'll recommend is The Pearl. Again, very short. It's like 100 pages, if that. When the news of Kino's great find, the Pearl of the World, spreads through a small town, no one suspects its power to deceive, corrupt, and destroy. Like his father and grandfather before him, Kino is a poor diver, gathering pearls from the Gulf beds that once brought great wealth to the kings of Spain and now provide Kino, Juana, and their infant son with meager subsistence. Then, on a day like any other, Kino emerges from the sea with a pearl as large as a seagull's egg, as perfect as the moon. With the pearl comes hope, the promise of comfort and security. A story of classic simplicity based on a Mexican folktale, The Pearl explores the secrets of man's nature, the darkest depths of evil, and the luminous possibilities of love. So basically, Kano finds this pearl and he excitedly tells people about it, and they start thinking about who could they sell it to, how much is it worth, what could they do with the money, and people very quickly become jealous and greedy and want to take it from him, and it becomes a very dangerous situation for them, so they leave and people follow them, and it just gets crazy. And the whole thing is basically about money and greed and what it can do to you and if money's even worth it in the end. The last book I'll talk about is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. If he even wrote it, it could be his wife that wrote it. I'm not going to talk about that. But yeah, this is turned into a movie. The adaptation is good. I read this as an adult. I thought it was a fun read. The story of the mysteriously wealthy Jay Gatsby and his love for the beautiful Daisy Buchanan. Story of lavish parties on Long Island at a time when the New York Times noted gin was the national drink and sex the national obsession. An exquisitely crafted tale of America in the 1920s. So basically, Jay Gatsby befriends this man named Nick. Nick is Daisy's cousin. Jay finds this out and invites him to all these parties and introduces him to all these people, but he really secretly, he's hoping that Nick will bring Daisy to his house because he's been trying to get in touch with her since they were teenagers, and he's like deeply in love with her and obsessed with her. It's a short book, but it's kind of sad at the end. Other than that, if you've read Mistborn, I recommend Mistborn: A Secret History. If you've read the Way of Kings series, you could also read Dawn Shard and Edge Dancer. I haven't read those yet, so I don't know anything about them. If you've read A Study in Drowning and A Theory of Dreaming by Ava Reed, you could also read An Archive of Romance that she put out this year. It's just a quick little book that contains snippets of stories and journal entries and just things about their romance. It's a cute little book. If you've read The Lost Boys Duet by Jessie Walker, which I highly recommend, then there are two novellas that come after that, All We Are and Still Beating. They're both amazing. I recommend those. If you've read Follow the River and After Rain Falls by C.E. Rickey, again, I highly recommend. Then there is Ravane, a novella that you could read. And this, I think, will get you out of a slump if you enjoy those characters because it's a happy little book. So those are all the books on my shelves that are short and sweet and can help you get out of a reading slump or help you if you are falling behind on your reading goal. Kind of about that time, I feel like, where people are starting to fall a little bit behind or get in like that mid-year slump and fall off of the reading train. So that's all I've got for you. Comment below and leave some titles of some book recs that you recommend that are short for people who are in slumps or for people who are behind on their reading goals. Also comment and let me know if you're in a reading slump, things you do to get out of them, and also let me know what your reading goal for this year is. I think it'd be fun. Mine's 100. I typically read a little bit more than that, but we'll see this year. But thanks for hanging out with me today. I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, I'm sending forehead kisses and good reading vibes to everybody. Bye.